recording on Zoom, and we also have Northwest Access TV in the house tonight recording as well. So we're going to call the meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Montgomery Selectboard and Water Commission. Today is Monday, March 18th. It is 6:32 p.m. First order of business is to review and make any changes to the agenda. There's two things that I wasn't sure if we wanted to act on them tonight, Mark, but they were in the stack. One is the annual financial plan for town highways.
Yeah.
Do we want to do that tonight?
I don't think I've updated it yet.
Okay, then we can wait on that? Okay.
Yeah.
And the second is there's a town road right-of-way occupancy request. Have you seen this at all?
Yeah, I saw that, but we haven't had a chance to go look at it
Okay,
yet.
then we are not going to address those tonight.
There's one thing I want to address is the paving of the road, if we want to do it or not.
Okay, so under Public Works, we're going to do
For paving.
paving, Fuller Bridge Road. Or do we call that South?
They could hit me in my tongue.
Fuller
Bridge.
Fuller Bridge.
I think so.
Meet that person.
Under,
Great, so we're going to add that under Public Works.
got it.
Any
As
other?
Item C.
Yep. Any other additions or deletions to be made to the agenda?
I haven't looking else.
All right. If there's no others, then we'll move on.
Do we have to approve minutes from last meeting?
I've got that next. First I've got board organization, just to take care
Oh,
of
then we'll
that.
do minutes.
Yeah. So it's our first meeting after town meeting day. Yay, we're back. So oaths of office have been taken by Mark and Leanne, so they are fully vested. Back on the board, congratulations on your re-election, my condolences. Next up is election of officers. So chair and vice chair. Do we have any nominations for chair?
Sure do.
Yes, indeed.
Go ahead and make them.
Charlie Hancock.
All right, any other nominations for chair?
Charlie.
All right, well, hearing no other nominations for chair, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Charlie Hancock serving as chair of the board, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Charlie,
Yes. Larry?
you're getting a lot of echo and hard to understand a little bit.
We're getting a lot of echo and hard to understand. Okay. If we brought one of those mics closer, might that help with it, do you think? We're gonna reconfigure some of the mics and see if that works, Larry.
There's nothing that would be causing echo, but definitely can't move this.
Okay. All right. We're moving some stuff around, Larry, so we'll see if that helps or not, and we'll just ask folks when they speak to project.
Gave you a thumbs up.
All right, great. So, I forgot where we were.
Chair. You are now the chair.
You're now the
of the
Did we
board.
vote?
We
Yeah.
did,
Okay.
just yes.
Were there no opposed?
There were no, do you want to do it again?
No, that's fine. Okay, so now we'll open up nominations for vice chair. Are there any nominations for vice chair of the board?
I'll nominate Emily Kimball.
All right, any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, all those in favor of Emily Kimball serving as vice chair of the board, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. Any opposed?
Me.
Any abstentions?
Too bad.
You can decline the nomination if you formally want to.
Do I still have to take notes?
For now, yes.
Fine, carry on.
All right, any abstentions? Hearing none, then that vote passes 4-1 to 0. Emily, you've been elected vice chair of the board. Congratulations.
Thanks a lot, Leanne.
All right.
You're welcome.
So that takes care of election of officers, designation of regular meeting times, schedule, newspaper, record, posting locations. So currently our meeting schedules are the first and third Monday of the month at 6:30 p.m. here in the Public Safety Building Conference Room. Newspaper of record is the St. Albans Messenger, and the posting locations are the town office here, the village post office, and the Jolly Bulletin Board. That is currently the regular meeting, newspaper record posting locations.
So the messenger.
Yeah, the messenger, yep. At this point, I guess we'd entertain a motion to do something differently and change that, or we can maintain the current regular meeting schedule, newspaper, record, and posting locations.
I'll make a motion to do the current posting locations and the newspaper.
And meeting schedule?
And meeting
Yep.
schedule.
And
Okay.
just quickly tell me those again, because I can only type so fast.
Yep, so Mark has moved to maintain the regular meeting schedule of the first and third Mondays at 6:30 PM, the newspaper of record as the St. Albans Messenger, and the posting locations as the town office bulletin board, village post office bulletin board, and the Jolly bulletin board. Is there a second to that effect?
I'll second it.
Great, any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, and we have retained the current framework for that. Internal procedures, open meeting laws, this shouldn't be new to anybody, so I'd say if you want to brush up on the Selectmen's Handbook, feel free to do so. We operate by Vermont's open meeting laws, which again shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, but if you need to brush up on that, please do. And if any questions arise at any point, please feel free to ask if there's any question as to whether we're operating in the right or not. Areas of responsibility, so again, same framework we've been working under. If there's something that spins your wheels and you want to do it, by all means, take it on. We can designate people formally or informally and whatever roles we want to be responsible for certain focal areas. But again, this is nothing new. And then the conflict of interest policy, everyone up here has signed that already, so again, there's no surprises there. So that takes care of board organization. Any other questions or comments? Flights of fancy, feelings, emotions? No. Okay, with that, we will keep on chugging because we have a pretty full agenda. Next up is review and approval of the minutes of the March 4th meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as written?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion from Mark. Is there a second?
That was our regular select board meeting.
Yes.
Mhm.
Sorry, I'll second.
We have a second from Leanne. Great. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes as written, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
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 I feel like I wasn't at that meeting.
Opposed?
Yeah, I think you were.
Okay, aye. Sorry.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right, motion carries. And you've approved the minutes. Moving on to Public Works, updates. Mark, feel free to give updates on whatever you want to cover here. The one item that I did have on the agenda, just to make sure we touched on, was the summary of the V-Trans visit up here, including but not solely pertinent to the Black Falls Road landowner discussion. So
Yeah.
if you want to give a summary of how everything went, feel
It was
free
the
to do so.
13th that they visited.
Yes, it was last Wednesday. Stephen Stanley came from V-Trans, which is like his district manager in the area. So we discussed, the grant for paving on Polar Bridge Road. That's due by April 15th, so we'll talk about that later. And then, how much money we're getting from the state aid and everything. That, it really hasn't gone up much over the years, and like Route 58 is a Class 2 highway, and there's a lot more traffic on that road and everything, and we discussed with him that if there was a way we could get more money to take care of that road now, because it's just grading and everything, it's just, a lot of our state aid goes to that road, and so we discussed that.
We can't really
discussed-
understand Mark at all.
We discussed that with him. Yeah.
Me neither.
For sure,
Yeah.
project.
I can't either, you gotta be Sinatra and grab the mic here.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now, or?
Yeah, I put it on the table.
So we discussed grants, a paving grant for Polar Bridge Road, and then our state aid money, hasn't gone up in quite a few years, what we get from the state for state aid for Class 2 roads. And then we discussed the Black Falls Road, and then Stephen went up to Black Falls with us to look at the road. Then we met with landowners, Jackie and Mary Doyle and Mary Niles, and discuss the road and, you know, what we could do to help improve the road. So we discussed, you know, redoing some of the roads, you know, which, we got to price it. Trying to, you know, dig up the road and redo the whole road is like $1 million per mile. So that's kind of cost prohibitive, you know. So we looked at other issues of ditching, trying to, when we do have a bad spot, you know, instead of, you know, remove some of the material that we do push aside on the road so that we could put better material back in, you know, some of the mud and stuff, to just remove that. Then on some of the places where there's high potholes, we're looking at, instead of just top coating with gravel, using rock fines, which hopefully is more expensive, but some of those areas, trying that to see if that will help keep the pothole, you know, stop the potholes from coming back quite so quick. Coming up with a 5-year plan, 10-year plan. Scott and I will come up with that, you know, after things slow down a little bit, and of what we're going to do, the maintenance on that road, ditching and projects on that road. And I mean other roads in town too, but that's, yeah. But that's what we're going to try and get done. I guess that's about it, right, Scott? Does that cover everything? Yeah.
There isn't,
Yeah.
Steve Stanley, he said there isn't any,
So-
there's no money out there to help with it.
May I speak? It's Jackie.
Can you hold on, Jackie? Scott is in the room speaking, and the mics are a little bit far from Scott, but Scott was just commenting on Steve's take on the
Yeah, there's
availability of state money.
he said there's no money out there to get for grants for anything to fix class 3 roads at all. He said it's mainly just class 2 for paving and if like big culvert changes and stuff like that.
But he did give me a website to go to. There's some other grants available. I haven't looked at it yet, but there might be some other grants we can apply for class 3 roads. So I just haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but I will look at that and see if there is any grants. And Mary Niles has agreed to, she does grant writing, so she's agreed to help me with some of these grants if I do look into them. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So we'll see if we can find some more money.
Great. So we're not at visitors yet, but I will pause here. Jackie, Mary Beth, if you do want to jump in on this topic, feel free to do so now. You guys can fight over who goes first.
Okay, Mark, thank you. Thank you both for the visit and the length of time you and Scott and Steve spent with us. And that was I think it was a good summary. Appreciate hearing that the plan will be immediate and long-term, and in our conversation on the road, we were extending this to all roads, that there's a crumbling of the infrastructure because the climate is changing, and it's going to be, I have some dental issues, so forgive my speech. It's going to be vastly expensive and take time, but that's not a reason not to start.
No.
I've written to our representatives to see if the legislature is doing more than coming out with a statement that says we need to harden our infrastructure. How is that going to translate into our dirt roads? I had an idea I want to throw into the ring because it seems we have to look at all ways of addressing the roads. And one issue that we hear about a lot are the sap trucks, which are an essential part of sugar making and an essential part of our local economy. I'm fortunate in that my neighbor buried his sap lines and he's using gravity to run it down to his sugar house, so there are no trucks. And I bet he paid between, I don't know, $6,000 and $11,000 to have that done. Would the town consider a tax credit on his municipal taxes up to 70% of that? So if he spent 10 and he pays $2,000 a year, that would give him like 3.5 years of an abatement of his municipal tax, because he did a municipal work that benefits everyone on the road. And perhaps that could be an incentive to other sugar makers to have a look, and maybe even some banks or the USDA to have a look at getting these people grants. Just, it's an idea. It's outside of the box. Why not throw it in the ring?
Thanks, Jackie.
Yeah.
Mary Beth, do you want to go ahead? Feel free to share any thoughts or additions. Just make sure you come off mute first. You're still muted, so you're going to want
Are you talking to me?
to.
Yeah.
Talking to.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, great. So first of all, I want to say thank you to the representatives who came. Mark and Scott, you were incredibly helpful. I really appreciated listening and talking with you and understanding the issues even more directly, given the impact on the entire town. And no offense intended, but Mark, it's basically volunteer service you do. So thank you for all the work that you do. I appreciate it. I really clearly Jackie and I have talked about this, but I appreciate the idea of a tax credit incentive for sugar makers, because it's clear that the trucks have a huge impact on other roads, not our road, but on other roads out there, huge impact. And, these are families who are just trying to make a living. So I think that's actually something that's doable. I also think that as we're making, financial decisions and the complexity of the issues will continue to mount, that as much as nobody wants to be on a committee, I don't think that Mark and Scott should be responsible for all of this for everyone. I would suggest that we have another community committee where we come together to say, how are we going to address this together, so that we're sharing the responsibility and we're sharing the burden load to make a difference, because everybody knows, it's nobody's fault at this point, but everybody knows that this is incredibly difficult on families who have kids. I don't have kids, but families who have kids trying to get to school or people going to work, that, it's a problem, and it's not one person's responsibility to solve the problem for the entire community. So I just put out there that it might be time to invite people to problem solve this together, because what we know is the feds aren't going to offer money, and the state's not going to offer money. I mean, we can say let's look for grants, but Scott's been doing that, and it's not likely there's money out there. So my 2 cents, and thank you, Scott and Mark.
Great. Well, thanks, Jackie and Mary Beth, for coming tonight and for sharing your ideas there. Larry, did you have something specifically on this topic you wanted to mention briefly? All right, we'll circle back to you at visitors.
Only that there's several other people who have done the same thing as Sol. Jordan has, Harrison has. I'm trying to think of who else probably.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, but your point's well taken.
There's 3 or 4 that have already taken that, and there are, for instance, 3 or 4 on the Reagan Road that are not. Okay. It is extremely expensive. I remember running lines to 118 with Jordan, and that was extremely expensive. That was well over $15,000 for the two sets of lines we ran down there. Yeah. And we may want to pressure some of the other sugar makers to do the same wherever it's possible. That's the only thing. Right now, if you're gonna give 70% incentives, you're in debt already.
Yeah, thanks, yeah, there's definitely some stuff to kick around with. It's an interesting idea, we'd have to kind of kick the tires on it some more, but you point out some things that we'd have to consider, certainly. Yeah, Mark?
I want to jump in while we're in debt already. When we think about, giving a municipal tax credit, yes, that will be debt, but we're in bigger debt in terms of trying to maintain the roads. I mean, just the cost of the machinery, and as the machinery breaks down, and getting the stone, and then when stone's available, not being able to get trucks to the stone because the roads are posted. I think that if we came up with a 5, 10, 15-year plan, this is not a quick solution, but I think that we're in the hole already because we can't afford to maintain what we have in doing and moving forward in the way that we are moving forward.
Yep.
Scott and his I think, I was gonna say men, but I think we're down to a man. They're working 24/7.
Yep,
They
yeah, so.
can't do anymore.
Yeah, so I think a lot of good conversation here, some interesting ideas, but I think again, like the next steps here are gonna be kind of fleshing out this short range, long-term range plan and trying to see what kind of funding we can attach to it, whether it's municipal or otherwise. So I think that's the next step on our end, and so we'll start to work through that, and we'll certainly share it out as we kind of go through that iterative process.
But
The only additional thing I would ask is everybody mute when they're on. I think we're getting feedback that because somebody's not muting.
Okay, thanks, Larry. Yeah, Mark.
I think we found out today that some of the other towns are going against some of these sugar makers that are damaging the roads. As long as DOT will write them a ticket, as long as the select board stands behind that ticket. I think that's maybe a route we need to look at. I mean, my feeling is these sugar makers, they're ruining our roads. If I was doing it, I think I would go to the town and say, I know there's some sugar makers that are going to towns and giving them money to help fix their roads.
And
Like in Fair-
materials
like in-
and manpower.
Like in Fairfield, I think Brandon's go to the town and say, we'll offer you trucks, we'll offer you help to repair your roads. And I think there needs to be a discussion with them to start to open this door.
Yep.
And like in our town, Jordan K, all these people helped us by putting underground lines, but maybe the state needs to look at giving them grants for that, so it helps, or whatever. They give them grants for everything else, for the sugaring, but I think the state needs to look at that portion of it too, and say, okay, we'll give you grant money to help you put a line under the road, so that you're not ruining the roads. So I think there is some talk at the legislature we need to do to, move some of this forward.
Yep. Yeah, well, thanks, Mark.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, we've got some work to do on that one, but for now, we'll put a pin in that conversation. And if there's no other general updates on roads or any public works stuff,
I mean, we're repairing, trying to get some stone in.
We've got some stone, finally they let us haul out of St. Albans.
Yeah.
We've hired some trucks to haul it in.
Yep.
And I just left the shop, we're here.
St. Albans, huh?
Yep,
I heard Eden's open,
yep, so,
Manassas and Eden.
yeah, but it's not ledge, it's
Yeah.
just crushed stone.
Oh.
So,
okay, great.
So
We can
we're trying.
replenish our pile, yeah.
Yep.
Good. So item B on the agenda is personnel related, and because it is personnel related and it relates to contracts and potential hiring, that is something we can do under executive session. The statute's referenced right in the warning. So if there's no objection, we'll pass over this item and we'll revisit it at the end of the meeting under executive session. Okay, hearing no objection, we'll do that. Mark, you had an added item here, paving Fuller Bridge Road. Sounds like the grant application is going to be due April 15th
Yes.
for that if we want to pursue it.
So I just wanted to talk to the board about that. I know we didn't budget for it. So the total cost for the repaving is gonna be like
83.
around 183,000. Our share is 20% of that, so it's around 38,000 to 40,000. In the infrastructure replacement fund, there's 55,000. The reason I'd like to push it and get it done this year, we're on the top of the grant list right now for the state aid, and if we push it off another year, the road's gonna get in worse shape, and it's gonna cost us probably a lot more in another year. That's why it costs us so much for West Hill and Hill West when we repave those, is because we let it go so far that it costs a lot more. I mean, we're looking at about 180,000 right now to redo it, and the cost of materials is gonna go up in another year, so our share is gonna be more. But and I think Pike was gonna be in the area, so that's why they could give us the price that they are giving us right now. And they may not be in the area in another year, so that's why I was trying to push for it this year, and I have to have the grant in by, I already have a new estimate and everything, so everything's ready to get the grant resubmitted by April 15th.
Okay,
And when we met with Stephen, he said we are on top of the list
Okay.
for that. We did apply for it last year, so that's how come we're on top of the list. So I was gonna make a motion to apply for the grant to repave Fuller Bridge Road, starting from the bridge to the town line, not to exceed, 40,000 our share out of the infrastructure replacement fund.
yeah, so Mark's made a motion to submit the, what is it called?
Grant application, the infrastructure, I think it's a paving grant.
Paving grant, okay.
Through V-Trans for Class 2 road.
Okay, so Mark's made a motion to submit the Class 2 paving grant for Fuller Bridge Road. With the associated figures, we're looking at 183,000 total with a match of 20%. So around, we'll say 40,000. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a second from Suzanne. So now discussion. I think in submitting the grant, we still would have an opportunity not to sign the final grant. So we can submit the grant, and if something changes between now and when that paperwork comes back, we could still potentially not accept the grant. My reasoning is if we do this, I do want to talk to Aaron first, just to like.
Well, I looked in the town report, and that's what it says, it was 55,000 in the infrastructure replacement fund.
Yeah.
Well, you could just talk to her and let me know. Before
Yeah, I'm just trying
I
to.
even submit it.
I'm just trying to go back to my brain about the budgeting and anything else that we were talking about potentially coming out of the fund. Because we'd also, and this is where my brain is not functioning and hers is so much better, but we were
Right.
talking about like not doing certain things through the municipal budget portion and running them through the infrastructure, through the reserve funds. So like, rather than have like, we separated out project events in the municipal budget.
Yeah.
We didn't have grant revenue flowing through the budget. It was all gonna be through the reserve fund. And I just wanted to like triple check on my brain, like, was there anything else that we needed out of that fund? Cause I can't remember.
Yeah, I know we upped for culverts and ditching, we raised that for the budget for next year.
Yeah, and I think that was in
Yeah.
the municipal
That's-
budget.
For FY '24 and '25.
25, yeah.
Yeah.
Where I'm struggling is like, I just can't recall whether there was anything else that we did put to,
Because this is actually, it won't be done till probably end of June, July. It'll be into the next budget.
when we
Into 26.
pay for the.
No, into the 24, 25, the one we just approved.
Okay, so when will the expense show up?
Yeah.
Okay,
When you say we're at the top of the grant list for Class 2 highway,
Because,
if we take this grant, does that pop us back down to the bottom of the list as far
Wait.
as like?
well, yeah, because then, once we use that, then we go back to the bottom. But that's only for paving, so that's only for paving for Route 50, the bottom of 58,
Okay.
and the Fuller Bridge Road.
Yeah,
So that's the only 2 places, so once we go back down, we'll just build that, you know.
So
okay.
is the 183,000 for both the lower part of 58 and?
No, we already did that a few years ago.
Okay, I
Yeah,
thought
So
so.
that's why
Okay.
we're back on top of the list, because
So
Like, do again?
we haven't used it.
But
And the only other place to be paving would be like around the park in the village.
No, I was just wondering,
That's
like, with
not
this
part of it.
conversation around upgrading or trying to get more funds in place to fix 58 as a class 2 highway, but because that's a dirt road, it would be in a different pot, like grant pot?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I didn't really ask him if, like, when we come back up for the paving grant, we don't have the other 2 places to go, if we could apply to pave a little bit more, 58 or something, maybe. I don't know. I didn't ask him that question, but.
If we were to apply for this grant and then we're given the grant but decide not to go forward, does that pop us back down to the bottom of?
No, we
The
don't,
list?
we don't use the funds, we don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I think if we were to like accept the grant and then sit on it for a year and then not do it, that could have a
Sure.
negative impact, but I think
Yeah,
if, as long as they're not obligated, then,
I mean, if they award us the grant, we tell them right off, well, we aren't going to do
Yeah.
it this year, I think.
and my point was just that if there's,
I mean,
any more like double checking we need to do, we can definitely do that, but still execute, you know, Mark submitting it to get that rolling.
I mean, I would apply for it anyways, because then it shows the state that we're in a need for it.
Yep.
So, I mean, that, I would apply for it anyways.
Yeah.
But, I just wanted to make sure if we did get approved, that we were in agreement to, you know, do it.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, so we got the motion made and seconded to authorize Mark to submit the class 2 paving grant for Fuller Bridge Road.
But my feeling is it's just deteriorating more, and it's becoming a safety hazard too, so we're gonna have to get more coal patch, which is more of an expense to keep up with it. And then it just, once it starts going, it really breaks up fast.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Any more discussion? If not, we can vote.
Yes.
Oh, that was
Sorry.
a
This is
question
Mary- this is Mary
directed,
Beth.
that was a question directed to the board, sorry. That was not a question directed to the public.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
So any more discussion on the board of the motions made and seconded? Okay, then all those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? All right, motion
I mean,
carries.
if something comes up in the meantime, you see we should do it, just let me know.
Yep.
But I'll apply for it and then we'll go from there.
Okay, awesome.
Keep you
Well,
updated.
thanks for doing that,
Yeah.
keeping that rolling.
Okay.
All right, so at this point, we're gonna transition to visitors. So I'm gonna start in the room and then I'll go around the screen on the Zoom. Usually go in the order people got here, so Liz, I think you were first.
I'm just here for the Millbrook proposal.
Millbrook, okay, awesome, great. Scott, you're good? Carol?
I'm just here for the town plan vote.
Town plan vote, okay,
Yeah.
great. Tim?
Set for now.
You good? Craig?
I didn't learn anything.
Yeah, so I think after kind of looking at different policies and the state stuff and what we've got going in town, I think the track that would need to be pursued here under this would be that it would go under the current Class 4 maintenance agreement framework that we've got. In this case, if there were a landowner or a number of landowners that wanted to contract you to do work on the road, then they would submit the application essentially on your behalf as a contractor, but it would be under an agreement with you to do the work. They would submit the Class 4 road maintenance application. We would get it just like all the others and review what the scope of work is. Mark would double check it to make sure everything's cool. And then that would be the framework to move forward with. So the town would not directly contract you to do anything. It would be the landowners on the road acting singularly or as a group to submit the application, and then you'd contract with them. So that is the framework we would need to use in this scenario.
For simplicity purposes, maybe, not sure how complicated it is. Could I submit the permit? Do the legwork for them?
Yeah, you could submit the permit. The one thing I don't know of is, this has never come up, is is there a limiting degree to how much an individual can apply to do? I don't think there is. I think it would be a case of you'd have to sketch out exactly what it is you want to do on
Yeah.
what sections of road, articulate what the actions are so that Mark can review them, have them documented, and then approve or not.
Yep.
But you could certainly submit it. But any kind of financial relationship via contracting would be between you
Yeah,
and
the
whatever the
landowners.
landowners there are. Yep.
Yeah. I guess
Alright.
that would work.
Yeah. But again, it would be a case of same process we use for anybody else on a class 4 road.
Yep.
I think the kind of wild card would be, again, for you to figure out, folks on the road, are they all pitching in to do it jointly? Are you doing it? What's the scope of the work?
Yeah.
What are the bounds of it? So, yeah.
But I don't think it would include winter maintenance, because that's not part of our,
No.
this
You
would
don't have
just
to
be,
apply permits for winter.
you would just have to
Because it's
get
not
agreement with
something
them.
Yeah, that would be more of a plow
I mean,
agreement.
we don't,
Yeah.
Yeah,
we
so
don't do any of that, so that wouldn't be
Yeah.
an issue
Yeah.
with us.
this would be for grading,
so grading.
shaping, culvert replacement, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Alright.
Yep.
But not winter maintenance.
yeah.
That would be between you and them.
Alright. Cool.
Yeah, so there's a copy of the application on the website. If not, we can get you one through the town office to fill out and look at. If you have any questions, once you look at it, just let Mark or I know and I can figure it out for you.
Alright, cool. Well, that's a good starting point.
Yeah?
Thank
yeah,
you, appreciate it.
No problem.
Alright.
All right, thanks.
Have
For,
any more questions or concerns, I'll come back and talk to y'all.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we're gonna go to the Zoom, and I'm gonna go in the order that folks are showing up just on my screen. So we're gonna go Larry. Anything for visitors?
Well, some of my questions and comments are about the water sewer, the sewer thing. If you wanna wait till then.
Sure. Yeah, let's wait.
Okay.
We'll hit those then. Thanks, Larry. All right, now I'm going down. I see a Kimberly. Kimberly, if you've got any questions, please come off mute.
I don't have any questions, thank you.
Oh, hi, Kim. All right, cool.
Hi.
Great. Going now, Mary Beth.
Again, thanks to Mark and Scott, and I just want to encourage and hope that we can come up with some sort of subcommittee. I know it's got to be hard because nobody wants to be on another committee. But as Mark was sharing about the Fuller Bridge Road, I just kept thinking, like, you shouldn't have to keep doing all this on your own. So maybe there are more like-minded people who want to be able to help and say, let's share the burden. It's not your responsibility, it's our community's responsibility.
Well, as road foreman, I mean, as road commissioner, it is my responsibility. I mean, that's why I took that position, so I don't mind, overseeing those. And it kind of makes it easier when one person can oversee it sometimes, so, but I don't, that's why I took the position, I agreed to do that position, so. That's, yeah.
Well,
But I appreciate your comment, yeah.
All right, we're gonna keep moving across the board. David, if you have anything for visitors, feel free to come off mute. Again, David, if you have anything for visitors, feel free to come off mute. Yep. You're off mute now.
This is David.
Hi,
Can you
David.
hear me?
Yep, can hear you fine, yep.
I'm from Millbrook Building and Remodeling.
Oh, excellent, great. Well, if you want to hang out for a few, we will get to that topic and we'll circle back to you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Lynn or Peter? I assume you're here for the town plan.
Hi, Charlie. Yeah, it's Peter, and I'm here for the town plan.
Okay, great. So that brings us down through visitors. So let's hop into old business. I'm sorry, let's hop into town plan adoption. So this email is going to suffice as the memo of changes that we're looking at.
Yeah.
So the town plan hearing was, God, was it only last week? It was last week, and so we had a good crew here, had great discussion. And Peter has drafted the following kind of revisions based on the discussion and some follow-up that he and I had in terms of what edits would be made to the plan pending the potential select board adoption this evening. We have confirmed with regional planning that the changes that are outlined here are not substantive in their nature. They don't change the intent of anything. They just change some language, and therefore the board can adopt the plan with these changes tonight without rewarning a completely separate hearing. So, Peter, do you want to add anything to that before we jump in, or do you want to review these changes? How would you like to do it?
I think the changes are self-explanatory.
Yeah, so we can review them just for posterity's sake, so they're on the recording. But right now, as the changes are Chapter 5 in housing, goal number 2 would be reworded to read, quote, preserve the existing housing stock by encouraging a balance between traditional long-term housing and short-term rentals, end quote. That would replace the language, preserve the existing housing stock and discourage conversion from traditional long-term housing to short-term rentals. So the goal there is softening a bit and also kind of looking at the balance language. Again, town plan sets vision. It's kind of the end state we want to get to. The process, the policies, the means are really when the zoning comes into play or any ordinances. So that's where we get into the nitty-gritty, but this is kind of setting direction. There were tying in policy to goal. So there's also going to be an added policy here that would be added, maintain a reasonable ratio between long-term housing stock and short-term rentals. Under land use, chapter 7, policy 10 would be amended, the underlined language here added. So amended to read, promote new development in areas of existing or future infrastructure, such as roads, power, water, and wastewater. Following are just a list of some kind of just punch list clarifications or organizational additions or clarifications. So we're going to add a blurb on Hazen's Notch Association. We're also going to double check the roadmap to show the current status of Rossier Road per the letter from Rolf. We're going to add Friends of the Library to the list of volunteer organizations. We're going to add the Montgomery Baptist Church, noting that it's slated to go on the list of National Register of Historic Buildings. We're going to add the newly formed Hazen's Notch Conservation Trust to the list of organizations. We're going to add the MCA to the list of organizations. We're also going to amend the Garden Club language now that that organization has dissolved. We're going to also change the elementary school reference to clarify that it is pre-K through 8 and not K through 6. So these are the changes that came out of that meeting and that hearing. The one additional add that I would add to this list, it's not written here, but the prior meeting to this meeting was around flood resiliency, and one thing that we had noted in the plan was that when it listed the history of flooding in the town, the current draft didn't reference the 2019 Halloween storm. So one further addition to this list would be just adding a brief explanation of the 2019 Halloween storm so that the context of history of flooding is full and fleshed out. Any immediate reflections?
On the content corrections, add MCA, that is to the organization. I tried to pull up the...
Yeah, it would be under the list of community organizations, we would add the MCA.
Okay, and then, I should know this, but I don't. The National Registered Historic Building, Montgomery Baptist Church, I'm trying to remember if it's that or if it's Kelton Hall and associated parsonage. But semantically.
Are on the register?
As the registered
As the
title.
Reflects, okay. So we can just make a note here that when we do add the Montgomery Baptist Church as being listed on the National Register of Historic Buildings, we can clarify the language of how that is listed, so we can make sure it's the correct name.
Okay.
Charlie?
Yes, Peter.
I couldn't hear Suzanne. What was the comment on the registry?
So the question was just on the registry itself, whether it lists Montgomery Baptist Church or if it lists Kelton Hall. We just were unclear on what the actual syntax of the registry is. And so the note was just made that when we add that as presented in the list, we just want to clarify whether it's listed as Montgomery Baptist Church or Kelton Hall or whatever, but we want to make sure it mirrors what's on the registry.
All right, thank you.
Any other reflections on the amended language as presented? If there's no other reflections, then a motion would be the next step here to adopt the revised language to the town plan, and in doing so, provide select board approval to the town plan as amended.
I'll make that motion.
Great, we have a motion from Mark. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Great, we have Emily. Any further discussion? Hearing no discussion, then all those in favor of adopting the amended language to the town plan and thereby adopting the town plan as amended, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries and you have adopted your town plan. Thank you very much, Peter,
Yes,
and members
thank
of
you.
the Planning Commission for all your
Yes.
hard work that went into that.
Yes.
Any questions or any kind of textual stuff, feel free to follow up and we'll move to the next step.
Thank you very much, Charlie.
All right, thank you guys.
Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
Peter.
All right, welcome.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Carol.
Thanks.
Carol.
Just here.
So old business, the first item here, municipal wastewater update. Just a quick recap of the hearing that was held last week. Thank you for everybody that was there and or
Was it a hearing or was it just a?
information meeting,
Okay.
we'll call it. I don't remember what it was called, but it was a meeting about the wastewater system. We did have some technical bumps, so some of our online participation was a little bit limited with maybe some audio and video, but we powered through. It was a good meeting. We discussed updates to the engineering. We discussed the upcoming easement acquisition process that we're going to be looking towards. There was a lot of great discussion in talking with the engineers and our legal team at the end of it, and again today. There was no major substantive takeaways in terms of big engineering red flags or any of the easement conversation. I think our main takeaway is that we need to move now into the individual one-on-one conversations with people. And to that end, we are looking to schedule, this is tentatively, this might change tomorrow. We will post the final dates and times as soon as possible. But right now, we are looking to hold what we'll call office hours the week of the 26th of March. Tentatively, Tuesday and Thursday of that day are scheduled 2:30 to 7:30 p.m. What these are going to be is essentially open office hours to meet with the engineers, either remotely or in this room, to review the engineering plans on individual properties. That way the engineers can identify any individual questions, concerns, things to be flagged on individual properties and questions associated with that. So again, we're going to try to hammer out the exact date and time in the next 24 hours. There was a conflict potentially that Thursday with this room. But we're going to figure that out. And like I said, we'll get the dates and times fixed and announced hopefully tomorrow. But that is the next step there, is to move into one-on-one conversations with landowners. The only other update here is that we had anticipated closing on the Knight property for the center disposal field Friday. That has been pushed to no later than March 29th. There was a couple things in the deed that we got from the landowner's attorney that we thought were missing per the desire of the landowner, and out of wanting to be straight and transparent with everybody, we sent it back to their attorney to double check with the landowner prior to executing that.
March 29th is.
March 29th is when the closing will happen, on or before. Larry, you flagged earlier that you had a couple questions or some feedback on that meeting, so at this point, if there's no objection, I'll give Larry the floor to ask some questions or expound philosophic.
So, yeah, I do have a couple things. During the discussion the other day, a lot of the user rate was considering about The water usage in would be how we would determine the user rate. I'm just thinking of summertime here where people fill their pools, wash their vehicles, water their garden, pressure washing their equipment. For instance, I pressure wash my equipment all the time. That is water that is not going to affect the sewer usage. So I just want you to keep that in mind when you start thinking about the user rates, okay?
Yep, yeah, and I will just add just a quick footnote to that. I did have a brief conversation with the engineers today, and they did bring up that point, and they said, we've got an idea of how to make that work, but we didn't have enough time to get into it. So I think the engineers have some ideas around that, but flagged certainly, Larry, for further consideration.
Boy, they're almost as clever as me. The other thing is that there are a few new mound systems in town, and of course there's Bernie's. There's that trailer down near the rec center, and frankly, the schools is basically a mound system, only it doesn't look like a mound. Okay, are those going to be required to hook up?
So short answer is yes, excluding the school, and we can get into why. But the required hookups are for every parcel within the service area. As part of the design, engineering, as well as the governance ordinance looking at user rates and the funding for the construction, we are currently looking at opportunities whereby, and this is not fully baked yet, so this is not a promise of anything other than we are looking into this. As it was described at the meeting, part of this is going to be pulling tanks and replacing tanks to serve in this new step model of the system. Now, if a tank has been determined to currently have the structural integrity that we need to exist through that lifespan of the project, those tanks would be reused. Now, one thing we're looking at is whether there's an opportunity through the course of the project to essentially look at landowners like the Snowshoe, like Bernie's, that might have relatively new, or in all aspects, relatively brand new tanks that can be reused. And if in doing so, there's a way to essentially credit back the landowner some prorated value of that system, we are looking into how that can be done. So that's kind of a long-winded answer to say we are looking at reusing parts of infrastructure that exist, and we are looking at whether or not in doing so we can somehow credit that landowner some way in the system to account for, doing so.
Yeah, they've invested a lot of money, that's why I asked.
Yep.
There was one other question, one other thing that bothers me a little bit. I noticed the select board meetings and the school board meetings conflict with each other. For instance, there's a school board meeting going on tonight that I can't attend because I'm attending this. We need to look at that situation and see what we can do to alleviate the problem of being able not to attend one meeting because we're attending the other.
That's a good point, Larry. I will say that this body existed prior to that school board existing, and our meetings have always been the first and third, and therefore we were here first.
First come, first served.
And so I will tell Morgan that he has to have his school board change their meeting date.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Thanks,
Thank you very
Larry.
much.
I've got something. I met with Alex Arsenal today. All the sites that are marked in the center that they're going to do the borings on.
Yep.
I just met with him to make sure, hopefully we don't damage the water system when they're doing the borings. So I just posed a question to him. I said, if something does happen and the water system is damaged, I don't want it to be liable on us.
Yeah.
And I want the contractor or whoever to be liable. So I just wanted to publicly know that.
Yeah. Did he give you an answer on
He
anything?
didn't give me an answer.
Okay, I will, I'm gonna make a note right now to talk to the lead engineer on that.
Because they're gonna be boring in like 100 different locations.
Yeah.
You know.
Quick thing, is the boring they did last year the same as what they're doing now?
Yes.
The same project?
Well,
Because last year they had, when they were boring on the other end of town, they had dig safe and everything, and they did bore down and hit a major communications line.
Okay. I'll double check with John around liability for that, but that is something that I know that they are trying to work with DigSafe and they are doing other things, but I will make sure that it's clear in writing that if there's any damage, that is on the engineer or the contractor.
And I know there is a lot of old abandoned lines
Oh, yeah.
in the center too, communication lines.
Yeah.
I mean, the one they did hit in the village was an abandoned one. Luckily,
Took
but
a lot of people
yeah.
time and to figure that
Yeah.
out.
Yeah,
Because we had one right here 2 years ago.
yeah, we had
About
a
that
dig,
big with about.
we had a dig safe right by the church down. by the-
yeah,
hooked up
Yeah.
their water.
We,
Yeah.
you know, we were, yeah, it wasn't good.
Yeah.
It was not a good moment.
None of us think.
Well, just think, in another 100 years, when we have to go through NEPA for stuff, they're gonna call all that archaeological resources.
So, I just wanted to get it out there.
Yeah, no, but your point is a good one, and so I will flag that to John, that we would like something in writing
I'm
that,
gonna be on pins and needles anyways when
Yeah.
they're doing that, but the water system.
I'll make sure I'm on vacation somewhere out of state. All right, so that's the update
I will
there.
definitely call you.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm
I will
gonna
find you,
service.
Charlie.
So the other item under new business here was just the town hall committee charter adoption. I did talk to one of their members Friday to flag that we haven't actually adopted their charter yet. And I thought they were gonna be here tonight with a final one to adopt. So we will table this until the next meeting. They did have to cancel their meeting last week, so that might be why it's not finalized. I'm not clear, but we will table that. So moving to new business, the first item on our new business here is appointments. I do want to note that we've got some people in the room and on Zoom that are here for items B and C. And I just want to quickly poll the board. Would it be okay if we moved to handle items B and C first and then move back to appointments, just to try to get people in the room or on the Zoom?
I wanted to ask Scott about an appointment.
Sure.
before he leaves. The Transportation Advisory Board, will you be willing to be on that with me? They meet like once a month.
Yeah.
And it's just, they discuss all the projects in the state, you know, in this area and stuff.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask you that.
Yep. Absolutely.
Great.
Okay,
So we will handle that when we run through those.
yeah.
And if you leave the room and you aren't here, you'll be appointed for 6 other things too. Next day.
It's okay.
You'll be the
Not-
inspector of lumber
He's not-
shingles.
But not the wearer of coal.
He's not a town
It's
resident, so.
fine.
They're not a town resident.
All right, so if there's no objection, we're gonna pass over appointments for the moment so we can hit items B and C. So first item up is B, this is the Northeast International Municipal Aid Association membership. Tim, since you're here, do you want to give a quick synopsis of what this is and what you're asking?
Yeah, so I mean, for the fire department, we're already part of the Northeast International Mutual Aid, which covers pretty much all of Franklin County. For the last few years, we've been talking about joining this mutual aid because it pertains to most all the fire departments in Orleans County and some in Essex County. The biggest thing is that, you know, Montgomery's kind of in a corner here. We don't get any help from fire departments coming from the Belvedere direction. You know, going into Franklin County, you know, we do get help from Berkshire, Enosburg, Richford. But in previous years, when we've had some sizable fires on 242 in Alpine Haven up in that area, you know, we've called for help from Jay Fire Department, Troy Fire Department, North Troy Fire Department, and not being part of their mutual aid association, they technically could charge us for man hours and truck hours if we do call them for help, which is something that they've never done. I don't think it would ever happen, but for us to join their mutual aid association, it's only $100 a year. It guarantees that there won't ever be any conflicts of departments wanting to charge each other. And it also gives us the capability to train with them a little bit more, work with them a little bit more, which will be a big thing for places like JP, where, you know, if a fire does break out up there, we can all work together a little bit better.
Yeah, so I think
Can
the
someone interpret what he said?
Yeah, So basically, what they're asking us to do is for the board to affirmatively seek membership in the Northeast International Mutual Aid Association. And what this does is it brings us into partnership essentially with Orleans County and a couple folks in Essex County. Some of those services are the closest ones to many parts of Montgomery, especially if you get up 242. And to Tim's point, if they come and help us out on a call, they can technically charge us for it. So joining the Mutual Aid Association at $100 a year covers us from any billing of anybody else that might come from that direction to assist with us. And then as Tim said, being a member of this will also help us out with training exercises and the ability for the team just to be part of this bigger picture of this work in the region.
How much a year?
$100 a year. Yep.
I'll give them that.
So you just need a motion from us, or?
Yeah, we
Okay.
just need a letter stating that,
Okay.
the select board is okay with it.
I mean, I guess we can make a motion, I'll make a motion to approve, the fire department joining the Northeast International Mutual Aid Association.
Great.
And that we'll get a letter to them
Yep.
for the support.
Great. Motion from Mark. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Sure. Whoever you got, you can put it down.
Leanne's in there.
Great. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, we can vote. All those in favor of seeking membership in the Mutual Aid Association, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries. So I'll get you that letter tomorrow.
Thanks.
Yeah, I won't need it till next month.
Okay.
So,
we'll
Thanks
get
for
you that.
looking into that, Timmy. I
Yeah.
never realized
Yeah.
that. was an
Yeah.
issue. Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
So item C is proposal for consideration from Millbrook Building and Remodeling. So this is a proposal with an estimate attached of about $5,000 for pre-construction services. Liz, the town clerk, is here, who's been working with Millbrook, and we've got Dave from Millbrook. So I will pass it over to them to describe what we're looking at and answer any questions. I do quickly want to just add, as kind of a broader context to this conversation, I am trying to pull together at our next regular meeting individuals from the town office, the library, and from emergency services to have a little bit more of a conversation simply around design. We've got some design elements happening on this side. We have some design work happening on this side of the building. They're starting to kind of come together. There's some questions that have to be brought into the mix. And we also haven't heard really much from fire and EMS. And so Aaron and Doug are out of town today, so we didn't want to have it without Doug specifically. So placeholder, next meeting to have kind of more of the joint, let's look at some design elements and talk about bigger picture stuff. This is strictly around pre-construction services around the town office remodel. So Liz, I'll hand it off to you to present this if you want, and then I see Dave is here so we can bounce questions off of him or however you want to play it, but the floor is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, like Charlie said, I'm just here to put forward, my suggestion to the board to consider adopting the proposal from Millbrook. This proposal was one that I had sent to the board for everybody to review in advance. From Millbrook specifically regarding the town office remodel and hiring on with this company to help us advance this project and move towards getting an actual budget and cost estimates put together and really start to, get some solid groundwork laid for this project. So I just want to put my 2 cents in that after meeting with David, I think their company would be a great fit for what we are looking to do with doing some renovations on our side and doing the vault installation. They have worked with a couple of other town offices specifically where it concerns vault installations, so I feel like they would serve us really well.
Yeah, so as Liz kind of just summarized it there, this is around developing cost estimates, a budget, construction schedule, value engineering, bid packages. As part of this process, we would at some point bring in or bring back in an architectural individual or firm to flesh out more design elements, but I know one of the things the board was curious about looking at the last iteration of design was just getting some handles on cost estimates.
Yeah.
And so this is where Millbrook's gonna really come into play now to kind of say, based on what we're looking at here, here's kind of cost tables to consider. As we get down into final design elements, we'll be honing in on things, but this is kind of that first step in that process. And I just want to say, because one of the questions that I hope someone's thinking about is, how many proposals did you get back, and how many did you solicit because of our packet, our rules around this? So that Liz and Aaron Genevieve did confirm that the RFP did go back out in May and June of 2023, went out to the Vermont Bid Registry, it went out to newspapers, all the phone, email contacts we had, directly solicited from 9 different companies. 11 different companies. 4 never responded, 3 said they were not interested or they were too busy, and we did get one back from Millbrook. So to anybody's questions around how many did we solicit, how many did we get, we've met the purchasing policy metrics there.
Yeah.
David from Millbrook, do you want to jump in or offer any kind of thoughts or context on what you're thinking on the process, or chime in on the conversation?
I would love to, but right now the ball is just in your court. There's really not much I can add until we get a little further with the process.
Okay. Anybody?
Except that I'm here, interested, and ready to go.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions for David while we do have him here pertaining to the scope of services or anything? All right, if not, then the motion would be to approve the proposal from Millbrook Building and Remodeling Inc. For pre-construction services not to exceed $5,000 under this framework.
So that would come out of the building capital improvement fund?
This is a great question. This would come out of ARPA.
Okay.
Because the kind of budgeting decisions that we were looking at coming into this year would be that any of the stuff associated with this project as of now, we're going to be billing to the ARPA fund. Yep.
Okay.
The vault and that kind of bucket per town meeting is funded through a separate loan that the voters approved for that installation, but this scope of work would start to get billed via ARPA.
Okay.
Yep.
And as you guys look at moving forward with, once we also start working with the architect to get the architectural drawings and the specs and do up civil drawings, like do the whole architectural piece, that should also be, coming from that same like ARPA funding to move forward with that as well. So that element will be coming in. I have spoken with Michael Dugan, and he did indicate that he's ready to go when we are, as far as getting the architectural piece of this underway as well for this project.
So after this step is done, we'll have more an idea of what the cost estimates.
This is what.
Excuse me, can someone tell me what she said?
Liz was just commenting about where certain sources of funding for this would come. So internally, what account are we billing it to? And that this would be supported with the municipality's ARPA allocation.
Oh, okay, nothing I needed to know. Okay.
No, this is all inside baseball.
Yes. Yeah.
And then, did you have something to add?
No, I didn't.
And then also just in parallel with that too, is we are waiting for more information from the state, whether it's around efficiencies or BGS to come back with other kind of, I think the last thing we heard from them was that they thought they were going to have a ton of money. They don't have a ton of money. They have some money, but we don't know how much money. So we are waiting that. So in parallel with this is waiting to hear back from what monies the state might have. And then if there are other opportunities to go after additional grant funding, we will do that as well. But like a lot of things, we're kind of building the plane as we're driving it down the roadway.
Yeah, but with the grant funding, I'm sure having a engineer with this cost estimates would help.
Oh, yeah.
The grant funding
That'll
too.
help
Certainly.
drive that as well.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
You can't apply for any grants until you have that in hand, is that
We need a
correct?
project budget
Okay.
for this.
So I'll make a motion to hire Millbrook Building and Remodeling Incorporated for a preliminary engineering study. Is that what? we're looking at, or
Pre-construction.
Pre-construction.
Pre-construction services.
pre-construction services for the public service, safety building offices.
Great. So we have a motion from Mark to essentially execute the agreement with Millbrook Building and Remodeling, Inc. for pre-construction services here at town office.
And I'll add not to exceed 5,000
Not to-
coming out of the ARPA fund.
Yep, not to exceed 5,000 coming out of the ARPA fund. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Emily. Any further discussion?
I'm just curious how you establish pre-construction cost estimates.
It's in the
if
proposal that I sent the whole board.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I didn't get that. I was just
It went to
looking.
the whole.
We have been having email issues though with a lot of stuff, so this
And
could
then I
also
resent it
be.
again, I think, to all of your
I just
individual
looked up
emails.
Okay, one more thing we need to look at is,
I don't know why, it seems like there's something funky with the select board email, because every time I send one to the whole board email, it seems like you guys aren't getting it.
No, the
So I've been
individual
sending
ones
it to
have
individuals.
been working, I thought, but it sounds like the individual ones might not be working now either, so.
It seems to be going to my public work fund.
I don't know, I just looked up Liz, Millbrook, Liz, what was the other, whatever the name, the item on this is.
Construction.
Nothing,
you get
nothing. Well, the only thing I
Yeah.
got from you is Liz warning for Monday.
Yeah, because
Okay.
it was like super detailed.
Yeah.
So I think, as it's been explained to me, I think the difference is that this pre-construction services are more to look at like macro design elements as they're currently presented based on the preliminary work we did with Michael Dugan, the architect.
Okay.
And so that's gonna give us kind of a high level cost estimate, cost tables for the things we're looking at. Then, as it's been described to me, the next step would be to then contract with the architect, whether it's Michael or a different firm, to do much more of the detailed drawing, schematics, and take that cost estimate down to a much more granular level.
Okay.
So this is kind of that first step down that road to get big picture stuff, pretty much so we can start to look at it and be like, okay, what are we looking at here?
Yes.
Like, what is,
Yeah.
because right now we've got kind of very much conceptual estimates. This is gonna take those down to like, okay, these are based in actual things, but they're kind of not granular, and then we'll get down to the granular. So that's the idea behind this step.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah, no, I had to ask the same thing, so,
Yeah.
yeah. Because my first thought was like, should we hire the architect first? But
Right.
no, it's like, do this, and then move into the architectural, and then move into the construction services, so.
Okay.
All right, so we still have the motion made, seconded. Any further discussion? Not hearing any, we'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries 5-0. David, thanks for joining us tonight. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you, I look forward to it also.
And Liz, thanks for coming tonight. So we'll get that going. Do you want to, I don't have a printed copy of whatever is to be signed. Do you just want to print one out and stick it in the box and I'll take care of it?
Do you want a copy right now, because I have.
Oh, if you do have one, yeah. I didn't see one in here, but yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. All right, so with that.
Charlie,
Yes, Larry.
I'm gonna leave you now.
Okay.
But the only comment I gotta make about tonight's meeting is you can't hear any of the visitors, can't hear Suzanne hardly at all. So we gotta do a better job at setting this up. This is the worst meeting I've been to on Zoom as far as that's concerned.
Okay, well,
And I don't want any of those appointments that are listed here either.
okay, so Larry wants to do
No.
which ones?
All of
No.
them. He said he wants all of them.
Okay, you're breaking up, Larry, but thank you.
Yes.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Sorry, Larry.
All right, so with that, we'll move back to appointments.
The list is long.
And I think we can move through these pretty quick. So just to remind folks, these are appointments. Appointments are done simply via nomination. There's no need to second a nomination. If we get more than one nomination for a position, we will call a question and we'll vote. If we don't get more than one nomination, we'll vote anyway, but it will be that individual.
Do I need to write who is?
What I would write is who
Nominate.
nominated and what the vote was.
Okay.
So, starting off, Village Cemetery Commission. This is an elected position. No one was elected at town meeting, so if there are any candidates at this meeting that we want to put forward, we can. This would be to finish out the term, which would be expire in 2028. Awesome, thank you, Liz. Are there any?
Is that the term for George Gabusa? Or, because
I don't recall who.
I got the book right here.
Who was up in the book?
It was
I thought-
George Gabusa and Sheila Marcia.
So-
Did Sheila get
I
put
thought,
in at the town meeting?
according to what I've got here, George got reelected, Sheila.
I didn't think
did
George
Declined.
wanted it. I thought George didn't want it anymore.
Sheila declined the nomination.
Sheila declined.
Mhm.
Okay. So George, okay, so Sheila's position.
Yeah, so that's what I've got here. I have George
Okay.
down as being 5 years reelected, 2029.
Okay.
So this would be Sheila's.
Okay.
Are there any nominations
She
for,
wasn't there, her husband stood up and said that
Yeah,
she.
oh, that's
Didn't
right.
want
Yeah.
it.
Mhm.
Okay.
are there any nominations for Village Cemetery Commission?
Larry.
No. I had intended to ask Lois about this for any recommendations, but I have not had a chance to, so we can also
Okay.
table this.
Let's table it.
Okay, I will ask Lois. All right, moving next, Water Commission, there's 2 seats open here. They were Mark and Leanne's seats prior to them getting reelected. And so this is a 3-year term, Mark's term expiring, and a 2-year term, Leanne's term expiring. So are there any nominations for the Water Commission? This is a 3-year term. Again, this was Mark's.
I'll nominate Mark.
We have a nomination for Mark. Is there a second? Sorry, there's no seconds in nominations. Stop it. Are there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Mark Briette serving a 3-year term on the Water Commission, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I guess I'll say aye.
All right.
Yay.
Abstentions? All
Wait,
right.
are you opposed? Wait, how did you vote on that?
I think you voted yes. right?
Okay,
yes.
great.
Motion carries, and Mark, you have been reelected to the Water Commission. Next up, we have a Water Commission 2-year term, Leanne Barnard term expiring. Are there any nominations for a 2-year term?
Nominate Leanne.
We have a nomination for Leanne. Are there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Leanne serving a 2-year term on the Water Commission, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. You've been reelected. Thank you, Leanne. Development Review Board. This is a 4-year term, Sue Wilson's term expiring. Are there any nominations for Development Review Board 4-year term?
Is there any recommendation?
Sue Wilson has expressed interest in continuing.
Oh, okay.
Oh, good. I would nominate Sue Wilson.
Yeah.
We have a nomination of Sue Wilson. Are there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Sue Wilson serving a 4-year term on the Development Review Board, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Great, you have re-elected Sue Wilson to the Development Review Board. We also have a Development Review Board vacancy. This is the remainder of a 4-year term expiring 2025. We did get a,
Who is this?
this was John
Kurlowski.
Kurlowski?
Yeah, I think so.
No, I'm sorry, this
No.
is Linda Kluba.
Linda Kluba,
Linda
yeah.
resigned,
Yes,
this is her seat.
Yeah.
Barry Cade has expressed interest in moving from an alternate to fill the remainder of Linda's term.
I will nominate Barry Kane.
We have a nomination for Barry Cade to fill the remainder of the 4-year term expiring 2025. Is there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, all those in favor of Barry Cade serving the remainder of a 4-year term to expire 2025, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? All right, you've elected Barry Cade to finish the remainder of that term. We have a 4-year term for an alternate member of the DRB, Merle Van Giesen, term expiring. I believe Merle wants to continue. Are there any nominations?
I'll nominate Merle Van Giesen.
We have a nomination for Merle Van Giesen. Are there any other nominations?
If I don't, we can do it.
All right, hearing no other nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Merle Van Giesen serving a 4-year term as an alternate on the DRB, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, you have re-elected Merle. We now do have a vacancy as an alternate, Barry having moved to a primary. So this would be a DRB alternate for the remainder of a 4-year term expiring 2025.
They have 2 alternates.
There's 3 alternates.
3 alternates.
Merle was just reelected to 1. Mark is an alternate, and this is the seat that was held by Barry, is the alternate we're electing now.
Yeah.
Yes, we need 3 alternates. We did have an individual express interest in this seat, Charles Snedcore, I believe. He sounds interested, and I did talk to the chair, and she thought it would be great to bring him on board. So if someone wants to nominate Charlie or Charles, that's a nomination for point of context. So nominations for the remainder of 4-year term, alternate DRB expiring 2025. Okay, I will nominate Charles Snedcore. Are there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Charles Snedcore serving as an alternate on the DRB, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
Good
Any
night.
abstentions? Great, motion carries, and you have elected Charles as an alternate to the DRB.
Spell that for me.
Snedicor, I believe.
Thank you.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, next up, agent to convey real estate. This is a 1-year term, Barry Cade, term expiring. Are there any nominations for the agent to convey real estate?
I nominate Barry Cade.
We have a nomination for Barry Cade. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Barry Cade serving as agent to convey real estate for a 1-year term, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? No oppositions. We have re-elected Barry Cade. Next up is the Budget Committee. This is all a 1-year term. We typically have 5 members. The current membership are Scott Perry, Mark Briette. We have a vacancy due to Sue Wilson's stepping off, Aaron Kopax, and Charlie Hancock. I will say that Scott Perry has also expressed interest in stepping off of this. So are there any nominations for the Budget Committee? They can have up to 5.
What about Catherine Berner?
Sure, we can nominate
I
anybody we want to.
nominate Catherine Berner.
Okay, well, let's take this one as a slate in the interest of efficiency.
Yes.
So we've got a name for Catherine Barnard. Any other names people want to put out here?
Erin Kopaz.
Erin Kopaz.
I thought you said she was on that.
So terms
Everybody
expiring.
has to be.
So
Oh.
this is 5 seats, all the terms expired.
Okay.
So this is to repopulate.
Nominate Charlie Hancock.
Okay, so we've got a nomination for Charlie, a nomination for Erin, a nomination for Catherine. I will nominate Mark.
Okay.
Are there any other nominations to the Budget Committee?
Well, Scott wants
Emily
all.
Kimball.
No, thank you. No.
Emily has declined the nomination. Scott did want to
Emily does
turn
not
off.
like
He
numbers.
does, he wants off.
There's another
I don't know, who else would be?
Leanne Menard.
Ann Barnard?
Leanne Menard.
Okay.
Okay, she didn't decline it.
Okay.
All right, so we have a nominated slate of
Hang
Leanne
on.
Barnard, Mark Briette, Catherine Barnard, Erin Kopaz, Charlie Hancock.
Charlie. C.
All right, all those in favor of the slate as presented, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Catherine Barnard.
Kathatrin.
Yep.
Great. Next up, we've got the Director of Disaster and EMS Management, Greg Lucas. This is a 1-year term expiring. I did finally hear back from Greg this afternoon, and he is interested in continuing in this position. So are there any nominations?
I'll nominate Greg Lucas.
Okay, I have a nomination for Greg Lucas. Any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Greg serving another 1-year term as Director of Disaster and EMS Management, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, we've re-elected Greg. Next up is the Deputy Disaster EMS Management. Doug Kopac's term is expired. This is a one-year term.
I nominate Doug Kopac.
We have a nomination for Doug. Any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, all those in favor of Doug serving as Deputy Director of Disaster and EMS Management, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, you've re-elected Doug. Fence viewers. This is a one-year term typically held by the listers. Are there any nominations for fence viewers?
I'll nominate the listers.
We have a nomination for the listers. Any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of the listers serving as a one-year term for the fence viewers, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? You've re-elected the listers. Next up is Forest Fire Warden. William Baker Sr., Billy Baker, has resigned from this position. So this would be a remainder of a 5-year term expiring June 30th, 2027.
I nominate Doug Kopac.
We have a nomination for Doug. Is there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Doug serving as Forest Fire Warden for the remainder of a 5-year term expiring June 30th, 2027, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? And you have elected Doug Forest Fire Warden. Next up, Animal Control Officer. This is a 1-year term expiring.
Parking poppers or something.
Linda Kluba. Are there any nominations for Animal Control Officer?
Nominate Linda Kluba.
We have a nomination for Linda Kluba. Any other nominations?
Did she still want that? Yeah, I think so.
I'm not sure. I haven't heard she doesn't.
No, okay.
So if she doesn't want to, we can always reappoint somebody
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
All right, not hearing any other nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Linda Kluber serving a 1-year term as Animal Control Officer, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Next up is Road Commissioner, 2-year term, Mark Briette, term expiring. Are there any nominations for Road Commissioner?
Mark Briette.
We have a nomination for Mark. Any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, and assuming Mark still wants to be Road Commissioner.
Such a lovely position.
Yeah. Hearing no other nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Mark serving a 2-year term as Road Commissioner, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
You didn't appoint
Great,
to that
you've
one?
re-elected Mark as Road Commissioner.
Well,
Next up, we've got Transportation Advisory Representative. 1-year term, Mark Briette, term expiring. Are there any nominations for Transportation Advisory Representative?
Nominate Mark Briette.
Nomination for Mark. Any other nominations? Hearing no nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Mark serving as Transportation Advisory Representative, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Great, we've re-elected Mark. Next up, Transportation Advisory Representative Alternate. This is a 1-year term. Any nominations?
I was gonna nominate Scott Ovitt.
Great, we have a nomination for Scott Ovitt. Is there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Scott Ovitt serving as Transportation Advisory Rep Alternate, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Great, you've elected Scott to the alternate position. Next up is Recreation Board. This is 3 vacancies for 3-year terms expiring 2027. Currently, we have Peg Doney, Lisa Perry, and there is a vacancy that was left when Nelson resigned. I have received word from the committee that Jay Farnham is interested in filling that position. We can handle this as a slate if you want to. Are there any nominations?
Does Lisa Perry still want to do?
Yeah.
So I'll nominate Peg Doney and Lisa Perry, and what did you say that over?
Jay Farnham.
Jay Farnham.
Okay, so we have a nomination of Peg Doney, Lisa Perry, and Jay Farnham to the Recreation Board for a 3-year term. Any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of electing Peg, Lisa, and Jay to a 3-year term on the Recreation Board, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Great, we've elected Peg, Lisa, and Jay. Next up is Zoning Administrator. This is a 3-year term expiring Ellen Fox. Ellen has agreed to continue on as our ZA.
Yay!
which is fantastic.
Oh.
Like,
Thanks,
Uh,
Alan.
I will nominate Alan Fox.
yeah, enthusiastically. Yeah.
Yes, jeez.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other nominations?
Wow.
Hearing no other nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Ellen Fox serving a 3-year term as zoning administrator, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
How'd you pull that one off?
Don't look at me. You just
Oh, yeah.
worked out.
That's good.
All right, next up, we've got MRBA Wild and Scenic Reps. This is 2 seats, both a 1-year term. Carissa Stein and Cynthia Scott, terms expiring. Are there any nominations for Wild and Scenic representatives?
I nominate Carissa Stein and Cynthia Scott.
Great. Any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Carissa Stein and Cynthia Scott serving a 1-year term as the MRBA Wild and Scenic Rep, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Great, and you have elected Carissa and Cynthia. Next up, we have Northwest Regional Consolidated Union District. This is representative. We've got 3 vacancies to fill, one of which is Aaron Kopaz's term expiring. Are there any nominations to the Northwest Regional Consolidated Union Communication Union District?
Do we
representative?
only have one person?
We currently only have 1 rep, and that is Aaron. There
She's doing a fantastic job with it.
there's room for 3. I
Should we
think,
elect her?
yeah, I think we should. Okay, so we have a nomination for Aaron.
Yeah, I'll nominate Aaron.
Any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, we can close nominations. We have 2 seats we can fill at a future date if we so choose to. All those in favor of Aaron serving a 1-year term as our rep to the Northwest Communications Union District, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, next up is Community Garden Board. There currently are 7 seats on this board, all of which are 1-year terms, all of which are expiring. After conferring with the board, I would move to nominate Remy Gritton, Wendy Howard, Genevieve Lodell Guild, Parma Jewett, and Hannah Sorensen to the Community Garden Board. Just to be clear, that's 5 members, so it would bring the board down to 5 individuals from 7. Same people are right there.
Okay.
Any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Remy, Wendy, Genevieve, Parma, and Hannah serving a 1-year term on the Community Garden Board, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great.
I have a question real quick.
Mhm.
You just brought a board from 7 down to 5. If there's extra nominations, can that bring a board from 7 to 8, for instance?
We could bring the board back to 7. We couldn't bring it to 8.
No, because it's got to
That's
be
what,
an odd
okay,
number.
all right, that's what I thought.
So we do have, so if, at this point, I
Wait,
don't.
were you saying
I was just,
6?
not specifically for the garden board, just in general, I was just wondering, like,
So-
there's a cap and that's where it ends until there's a vote
Yes,
to
so
add.
certain boards are limited by statute into how many they can have, and certain boards are limited just by us. We do try to have an odd number. If boards want to grow, typically what happens is the board submits a request to say, hey, can we add a seat? And we say yes or no based
Right.
on whatever.
Okay.
In this case,
So that wouldn't happen right now.
no, so if we get individuals that the Community Garden Board wants to put forward, we can certainly nominate and appoint 2 other people.
Yeah.
But at this point, these are the individuals that has been relayed to me that want to continue on.
Yeah, I was thinking about different
Yep.
positions, but that's.
All right, next up, Conservation Commission. We have got 2 4-year terms that are open. I'm sorry, we have 3, that's right, we have 1 vacant seat, plus we have 2 terms expiring. So there's 3 vacancies, each for a 4-year term on the Conservation Commission. I have heard that Joan wants to continue and Sue wants to continue. And we also did get interest from Charles Snedcore regarding the Conservation Commission, and the chair said that sounds great. So,
Is that Sue Wilson?
yes, yep. So are there any nominations for Conservation Commission? This is a 4-year term.
I'll nominate Joan, Sue, and Charlie.
Great, so we have a nomination for Joan Hildreth, Sue Baker, and Charles Snedcore. Any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye or
You said
raise.
Sue Baker, but a minute ago
I'm
you said
sorry,
Sue Wilson.
I'm sorry, Sue Baker
Yeah.
is
Sue
who we are
Baker?
appointing.
Yeah.
Sue
okay.
Sue
Wilson
Baker.
resigned from
Yeah.
the board,
Okay.
leaving the vacancy.
Leaving the vacancy. All
Sorry,
right, that was where I
that's
was
what you meant.
confused.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, so again, all those in favor of appointing Joan, Charles, and Sue Baker to the 2 4-year terms on the Conservation Commission, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, you were elected or appointed Joan, Charles, and Sue. Next up is Town Newsletter Editor, 1-year term, Sue Delois, term expiring. Are there any nominations?
I nominate Suzanne. No,
Nominate Suzanne.
Suzanne.
Any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Suzanne continuing to serve as Town Newsletter Editor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Great, you've been reappointed, Suzanne, congratulations. Financial Controls Officer, this is technically a 3-year term. I think we talked about this last time, this is the reconciliation
Yeah.
that you agreed to do. So,
Oh, okay.
any nominations for Financial Controls Officer?
So I nominate Suzanne for that.
We have a nomination for Suzanne, any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Suzanne serving as Financial Controls Officer, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Great. Congratulations, Suzanne.
Since I haven't got trained yet, I'll consider this my official.
There you go. This is your official appointment.
Yeah, there we go.
All right. This is the really important stuff here. Inspector of Lumber, Shingles, and Wood. This is a 1-year term. Are there any nominations for Inspector of Lumber, Shingles, and Wood?
I'm nominating Charlie.
We have a nomination for Charlie Hancock. Any other nominations? Hearing no nominations, we'll close nominations. All those in favor of Charlie Hancock serving a 1-year term as Inspector of Lumber, Shingles, and Wood, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Great, thank you so much.
I want it to be like Anita Woodward or something like that.
Maybe next time. Next up is Tree Warden. This one actually could potentially have things to do other than the other one.
Yeah.
This is a 1-year term for Tree Warden. Any nominations?
Nominate Charlie.
Nomination for Charlie Hancock. Any other nominations? Hearing no nominations, all those in favor of Charlie Hancock serving a 1-year term as Tree Warden, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Appointed Charlie Hancock, thank you. Last up, but not least, Ware of Cole, a 1-year term. Any
Emily
nominations? We have a nomination for Emily Kimball.
Thanks, Mark.
Ware of Cole. Any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, all those in favor of Emily Kimball serving a 1-year term as Ware of Cole, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. Any opposed?
You did do good.
Any abstentions? Great, and we have done our appointments.
I'm putting it on my resume.
Thank you,
Yeah.
everybody.
Not done though.
Next up is liquor and tobacco licenses. We have a first and third class liquor license for Thompson and Hines Enterprises.
Is that the Belfry?
This is the Belfry. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion.
I'll second it.
We have a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the first and third class liquor license for Thompson Hines Enterprises, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. The fleet permits that we have listed on here are N.A. Menashe and Consolidated Communications. However, I do not see N.A. Menashe or Consolidated Communications in the pile of fleet permits that I have before me.
Those, I think we did those
Yeah,
last time.
they're not listed here.
They're listed on the
No.
agenda.
Not on the agenda I'm looking at.
No.
It's not on here. They're not
What's-
on mine either.
What's on the agenda you're looking at?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Nada.
All right, then we just won't do any fleet permits tonight. That's weird. All right.
I almost thought we did those last time.
Yeah,
I
did.
We did.
I bet we did, and I just didn't update it on my copy of the agenda, which is full
You
of
haven't
notes.
signed, you haven't signed and stamped them yet.
I must have, because they're not in here.
You just looked at it.
No, I have a
Oh.
stack of fleet permits that are not those.
Oh,
So I think that I, for some reason, carried those forward on my copy of the agenda, which again is full of other notes, just to me. But did not update it with the current list, so I will update the current list for April 1st, and we'll do them all then.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
All right, so with that, I want to circle back to Public Works. This is the personnel.
April 1st, though.
Are they due before April 1st?
I think there's a date. Your date?
They expire March 31st.
Yes, that's,
Okay, well, if there's no objection, we will take these up now.
no, there's no date.
So we have fleet permits for
Hang on. Okay.
camp, precast concrete.
Did you have to get in position for this one, Emily?
I have to, I can't stay for that long.
This is the fleet permit.
No, if anything, I would have been in this position for my Ware of Coal nomination.
That's what I thought there was.
You got AmeriGas?
Okay.
SD Ireland. And their 2 million trucks.
That fly through town.
Well, this is about weight and speed, but point taken.
Well, they should slow it down if they want to continue to travel through town.
So,
On the record,
SD Ireland.
SD Ireland, take it down a notch.
and this is
I can let them know.
Chris
Yes.
Bullock.
That would be lovely.
Yeah.
Chris Bullock. I don't know who Chris Bullock is, but they've got a lot of vehicles. And they appear to be all pickup trucks. Oh, no, I guess not. Recognize the name?
The maximum weight.
Here's the list.
Whoa. That is a list.
Oh, I think this might be sticks and stuff.
Okay.
That's what I think it is. Yeah.
That makes more sense
Yeah.
given what we're looking at.
I
Okay.
think that's what it is.
All right.
Yeah. I think, yeah.
So is there a motion to approve the fleet permits as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the fleet permits as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second from Leanne. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of approving the fleet permits as presented, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion
See,
carries.
that's why I stay as road commissioner, because I remember these things.
Yeah, look at that. I would.
Way to go.
April 1st, before our meeting, you buzzing around town illegally.
Yes.
Get Brent out there with his ticket.
Ticket book?
I'm waiting to see it.
We'll have to
See it.
get him one
Does
first.
he get a massage too?
I don't know.
And probably a hat, I would think.
Maybe a whistle?
Just get a
Yes.
big old beer stein.
On a stick?
All right, so with
I
that,
like
let's
the way
circle
this is
back to Public Works personnel. This is the discussion, again, which we can do in executive session.
So I'll make a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel.
Okay, so we have a motion from Mark to go into executive session to discuss personnel on the road crew. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second from Leanne. Is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of entering into executive session, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, we are going to enter into executive session at 8:15.
Record.